Hey everybody, this is Perch. Holy smokes, what are we looking at here? It looks like this girl's, is this a thong? Is it panties? Anyway, it's coming undone. This is one hell, Marvel. Wait a second. Yes, that's right. We're dipping into the Marvel Mangaverse, and if you're going, hang on, Marvel Mangaverse, what the hell? Wait, this is X-Men. What is going on? Sure. This is part of what was Marvel's attempt to say, hey, that manga's making a ton of money. Anybody seen this Tenchi Moyo stuff? It seems like it's doing really well. Let's get in on that action. We've got this guy over in Japan, CB. He seems to know what's going on. Let's make the Marvel Mangaverse. This came out. Marvel Mangaverse came out in 2000, just in time for a new century, and basically it featured an alternate universe. I believe this was 2301 universe, and there may have been a second universe. It was not, people weren't really entirely sure, but they basically got Ben Dunn, who's known for Ninja High School, if you're familiar with that title, to basically come in and do Marvel the manga way, except not really. What it wound up kind of being was a very, it was like what somebody who had a very unclear understanding of manga would do if they were told to write manga. That's not a knock against Ben Dunn, who I do think knows what's going on, but there was some weird stuff in here. The Mangaverse is, I would say, remembered positively by a lot of people, unless they actually go back and read the comics, and then they quickly remember how terrible it was. But there was some good stuff in there. I remember there was a MJ Spider Woman title that was kind of cool as part of this, and there were some decent artists in here. But there was also this book. This is X-Men Phoenix Legacy of Fire, and the first issue came out this way. This title was quickly changed to be a Marvel Max title. Basically that means it had boobs in it. Now you don't actually get to see any of the bits, but basically the series is a number of manga-ish illustrations with a lot of 3D CG backgrounds and early stage computer coloring of these characters, but basic premise is this. Sisters Jenna and Madeline Pyre have a sibling rivalry, never agreeing or cooperating on anything. But when the mysterious sword of Limbo is stolen by a rival family, can Jenna and Maddie put aside their differences to reclaim the family heirloom? This is by Ryan Kinnard, and it is edited by C.B. Cebulski, so there's that. And let's take a look at this book. There's actually, I gave you the quick story. Let me give you the longer story. Limbo, a vast plane of existence, home of the surreal, the powerful, and the pristine. It is believed that in the beginning the Phoenix is an entity of omnipotent power. It was born of the great void. Its quest to understand existence. The Phoenix created the vastness of Limbo to be home to the children. The millennia passed, and eventually the great entity died, leaving his children to their own fates. As time went on, the children began to dispute the hierarchy of Limbo, and great wars broke out over their homelands. Creating their own followers and armies, the children would draw out their conflicts for tens of thousands of years until they themselves followed their parent into nothingness. The followers, tired of warning and looking for a place, eventually put down their arms and went their separate ways. Kingdoms were formed and territories established as they made new lives for themselves and prospered through their accomplishments. Time continued to pass, and what would come would be known as the greatest discovery recorded history was made, a finding of the great Phoenix sword, a blade said to have been forged from the dug from the petrified remains of the great Phoenix itself. The sword gifted its bearer's bloodline with great strength and near immortality, while the bearer gained the ability to wield an army of incredible magics. Worlds of the sword's power spread throughout the Limbo, and those who sought to conquer began plans to make the blade their own. War after war as faded, as the sword slipped from hand to hand, those years became known as the Age of Chaos. Eventually, a clan of demi-humans called the Pyre would take possession of the great blade, with each Pyre wielding it as a far greater skill than any of the Phoenix sword's previous masters, and it was passed down from generation to generation. The sword became more a tool of peace than of war. Thus, the almighty blade in the hands of the Pyre clan, the Age of Chaos slowly came to an end. Still others, feeling jealousy, hatred, and loathing toward the Pyre clan, and took every opportunity to slay the sword-bearer's king. They would often pay for their treacherous acts with their lives, but the years would take their toll on the members of the Pyre clan. For now, there are only two. Yeah, so it sounds like a Square Enix game. So anyway, the comic opens with several pages of basically Madeline and Jenna fighting with energy swords in training, and basically it's a lot of ass. So if you're interested in some ass, you get a lot of ass. So they fight for a while, and eventually one gets the upper hand, and then we get some more ass, and then before she falls to her fiery death, she is able to fortunately recover and teleport herself back to the surface, even though it's very embarrassing, and she has to basically expose her ass. So they go back in some various training. Jenna is the I think the younger sister here. Madeline is the bitchy older sister. And at various times, the coloring just seems to give up the plot to make the characters look like they're completely naked. But we get some nice shots of basically crotch. These ladies do shave completely and ass. And so after a while of fighting, they teleport into what is apparently some kind of golden hot tub, and they have a different ornamental bikini set thong, which they hang out with. I'm not sure why they bothered to change, because nothing is really different. I'm also curious how these cups stay on the boobs. That's another great question. Anyway, this is a Marvel comic. Just throwing that again out there. So as they are relaxing, enjoying their hot tub, then another girl servant comes in, Nidal, who has also got some kind of crazy, somewhat One Piece suit. We learn that the girls can... there's just a lot of boobs here. A lot of boobs and ass, and every now and then they throw sparks at each other's ass. So anyway, after a lot of talking, basically about being the sword and being the guardians, and they're not sure they're up for it, but they're probably up for it, and Jenna's feeling like, she may not be up to the task, but Nidal says, no, you are up for the task, and then they are wondering if they're going to be a good guardian. This is a Square Enix game with boobs and Marvel. I will point out at this point that nothing here remotely resembles the X-Men. And the only time you really do get the X-Men is there's this vague kind of, inference to the Shadow King, which comes up much later. And then the Raytheon Corps is one of the antagonists that may or may not have anything to do with the race, sort of. But anyway, they're depicted as kind of skeleton tree monsters with legs that kind of look like a Ghost Rider. But anyway, so there's elves, and the two sisters are basically trying to figure out, boy, what should we do? Madeline's like, my sister isn't ready, and Jenna, meanwhile, is like, I hope I am ready. And Jenna has a little dream in a different bikini, where she comes across a dark, shadowy sword, and then, in true hentai fashion, almost gets enveloped with tentacles that force their way into her mouth and other orifices. Fortunately, she wakes up, spread-eagled on the ground, and heads off, much to her servant's butt's dismay. So as she goes in to kind of check out the sword and make sure it's all safe, which it is, she, basically had a bad dream about the sword. So, fun. So, just as she's convinced, no, everything's okay, the sword reveals that there is somebody trying to get it. Who is it? Well, we won't find out right away. It takes a couple issues, but eventually we get to the Shadow King, who in this comic is really depicted as kind of a dark, tarry monster with a skeleton head, who eventually kind of steals the sword and takes it away. We get some more kind of, dreams. We get a lot more hot tubs. We get more pictures of the girls underwater. Basically a lot of that kind of stuff. Every now and then you get a flashback. One of the flashbacks shows this war over the sword, which the characters look maybe vaguely kind of like the X-Men, sort of, if you kind of just ignore what the X-Men look like. But anyway, eventually through this comic, the girls go on their adventure. There's a little bit of lesbian action. There's giant ravens. There's glowing doorways. There's more butts. And when you get to the very end, girls get dropped into sticky goo. There's the guy stabs the other girl in the heart with the sword. There's more bikinis that seem to just hover on to the body for no reason. But eventually, the good news is the Shadow King is defeated. The sword is reclaimed. The girls sit on each other in uncomfortable ways, and you get plenty of ass. So anyway, that kind of is our comic. This was a Marvel Mangaverse, and it was one strange as hell time. So we got 3 issues out of this, and while they do defeat the Shadow King, the Phoenix Sword ultimately is kind of dismissed, and then Jenna gets an incredible gift, and then they hug. And they say, well done, little sister, well done. So she's not talking about the comic here, which is absolutely terrible, even though there are a lot of boobs. But I want to remind you at this point, if you're pretty thirsty for this, boobs are free on the internet, and you could probably get better boobs than this. But anyway, I show this too as some people have asked me, why doesn't Marvel get more into manga? Well, they did, and this was a result. So monkey paw for you. Anyway, do you remember X-Men Phoenix? Are you just surprised at this entire thing? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course, and thanks for listening.